The Rockets Chop Shop is your one-stop shop for all your basketball needs, for highlights, analysis, podcasts. We do it all here at the Rockets Chop Shop. Make sure you hit the like button on the videos that you watch if you enjoy them. Hit the subscribe button to get notifications from all the great drops that we have on the channel. Also, you can visit the Chop Shop merch store and get you some of the swaggiest gear in the Houston Rockets kingdom. And if you want, you can always support the channel directly through donations. And if you want, you can support us through our partnerships with our sponsors. The Rockets Chop Shop is made by fans, for fans, and we're gonna keep rocking and keep dropping that heat.
This is something I know.
What is up, CSG? So the finals are set for the NBA. It's going to be Dallas representing the Western Conference, and you have Boston, old reliable in the East, coming out for a showdown. I'm looking forward to these finals, but watching these playoffs, it becomes very apparent why teams are searching for stars, because that is what it takes. You look at the two teams in the finals. You obviously have Luka and Kyrie surrounded by a bunch of great role players. You have Boston with Tatum and Brown surrounded by very elite role players. And even in the previous rounds, you're looking at the talent of the teams that made it that far. Usually there's a guy on there that is the engine for that team, if not multiple guys. And for the Houston Rockets, I think this is relevant to what they're trying to do. I've seen a lot of news stories and tweets and articles come out about the Rockets expressing to the general NBA that they want to trade the third pick. They want to trade the third pick. You guys know where I stand on some of these prospects. I think overall this draft it's a decent draft. And obviously when you look back, probably 5 years from now, you're going to see that there are guys in this draft that actually turned into possibly all-stars. Maybe some guys are going to be all NBA, but that's what every draft. In fact, I was going through drafts talking to my boy Daniel this morning, and we were just talking about, what the different drafts were and who players came out. Really, we were talking about how the Kings and the Suns fumbled both Luka and Trae Young in that draft, but it came up because of Luka. And you start seeing through these drafts, the hit rate for the really good players, the ones that I'm talking about that are going to be transformative to your team, roughly about 20-30%, which is not bad, right? In the top 10, if you're looking at just the top 10 alone, about 2 guys out of the top 10 turn into centerpieces for your franchise. Some years it might be 1, some years it's 3, but the further back you get into the draft, you start seeing these gems that pop out of not only guys that are just superstars, but also good role players. You go to the back, the Tyrese Maxes of the world, the Desmond Banes of the world. Some of these guys that are drafted later, SGA was drafted out of the top 10. And Jalen Brunson in the same draft as Luka going in the second round. So there's just all these players. And to me, if you can, once again, the reason I'm okay with trading the pick is because if you get a later pick, guess what? Go draft, do your scouting, do what you got to do to get a player. But on the side of the Rockets competition, the West is crazy, y'all. Like it is really, really crazy to think about how good the West is compared to the other conference. We have, obviously, Dallas is going to be there. Luka's only 25 years old, already a 5-time All-Pro, going to the NBA Finals. He's not going anywhere after this Finals appearance, right? There was a lot of rumors about Luka possibly leaving the Mavs. That's dead right now. This run that they had probably buys them another 3-4 years, at least a full contract. San Antonio, another Texas team. They got Wembanyama. I think he's going to get progressively better, and the teams around him are going to get progressively better. And I think that the Spurs can probably field a playoff roster as early as maybe a season or 2 if they wanted to, just because Wemby is that impactful. Some people had him winning the Defensive Player of the Year. Not me. I think if you're going to win an award, at least let your team be good at what you're supposed to be impacting. Like, you can't be the Defensive Player of the Year on one of the worst defenses. That's kind of stupid. It kind of cheapens the award. So I'm not mad Rudy got it. But Wemby's there, right? Another baby in the West that's going to be here for the next 10 years. Oklahoma City, we haven't even left our region yet. Like, we're still in the Texas, Oklahoma, and then you got, Zion, you know what I mean? So that's another player. You got Jokic is still relatively young in the league, and he's going to be here and have something to say about it for some time to come. Memphis with Ja Morant. They're young relatively in the league. He's going to be here to say something about it. Fox in Sacramento, I don't know how long he's going to be in Sacramento. He's not old. He's getting on the elderly side as far as in the NBA, but he's still a young player relatively in the league. Phoenix, I don't know what amalgamation of team they're going to put together, but I'm not going to count them out because they just have too much talent. So there's all these teams that are out here in our conference that we have to compete with. Obviously, the team that we just watched go to the conference finals with Anthony Edwards, right? A 22-year-old shooting guard who's leading a team at that age to the conference finals. The Wolves are going to be there. So I'm saying all that to say, like, the Rockets have their word cut out. Like, we are behind the 8 ball. And one thing that people need to be able to grasp as we're discussing all of these like future builds for the Rockets, what they need to do now, patience and all that. I still think patience largely is the best bet for them to be able to gain what they want out of what they've been tanking for all these years, right? Which is to try to get a corner piece. I think patience gives you the highest chance to do that because you have so many opportunities with the young core that we have with the 6 players. But they are a bit behind the 8 ball. We have to keep in context that the league is not static. What I mean by that is Wemby isn't waiting for the Rockets to be patient and figure it out, right? The Anthony Edwards isn't going to wait for whoever the Rockets star player is to catch up to him. The Oklahoma City is not waiting. Every team is going to improve. Internal development is going to happen in every franchise, especially for these really young players that are really good. And what that means is that even if our guys get better, other young guys are going to get better. So if there are guys like Anthony Edwards is already ahead of Jalen Green, if Jalen Green takes a massive leap to get to a certain point and already past that point, right? So those are his counterparts he's going to have to battle to be on that conference final stage. And so when you start thinking about all this, you see that even the patience approach is not a guarantee of success. And for the Rockets, to me, this is why I feel like it's prudent for them to try to get their hands on players. You can't always say there's going to be a player available because you never know. Now, I'm not the one to like, let's try to break up the young core, but I've moved to the point where I'm not opposed to it, depending on what the player is and what the deal is. Personally, this summer, I wouldn't do it right now. I wouldn't do it right now just for this summer. I would give up picks. I would give up a lot of picks to try to get a Mikal Bridges, right? I'm not a big fan of the Donovan Mitchell trades. I'm not. I just don't think Donovan fits on our team that way. I just don't. I think the ceiling on a Donovan Mitchell team is very low. But if the Rockets were interested in getting Donovan Mitchell as a stepping stool to putting together a more competitive team with another player and maybe a few of our young players, then yeah, I could see that happening. The point of all this is that I am totally open to whatever the Rockets want to do because when you look at the context of the league right now, nobody's slowing down for us. Nobody's going to slow down for the Rockets. Nobody's going to slow down. And as a franchise, to have your hopes in a bunch of young guys, I get it. I get it, Stone. I get it, Ime. So I'm not going to hold them for trying to trade that pick. Now, ideally, you guys know my scenario that I want. I want them to trade back and just draft somebody that's going to help fit a need right now and use some of their cap flexibility that they have this summer and just get some elite role players to give us one more go at this season and see whether we can get lucky and strike with one of our players. The only player on this roster that is on trajectory to being one of those players is Alperen Sengun. He's the only player on this roster. And his trajectory, as good as it is, it's not even elite. It's still like, okay, he's an interesting prospect to become a star. But once again, going through that draft with my boy Daniel, we're looking at players that have been drafted, the Anthony Edwards of the world, the Lucas of the world, the Trae Youngs. That's who we're comparing our players to, right? And we know the circumstances of, Coach Silas, they were tanking, blah, 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 blah. That's all good and well, but that doesn't impact the outcome of what actually happens in real life. Those are the reasons why we're in the situation we're in. But at the end of the day, when I look at Jalen Green and I see a number 2 pick, I'm comparing him to other number 2 picks, right? And if you look at in the past maybe 6 or 7 years of guys that were top picks, like I said, the hit rate is about 20, 30%. The ones that hit to become a worthy of a number 2 pick, they go to the route of I'm taking my team to the playoffs fairly early, right? They're doing it early. They're doing it at a high level. They're all-stars, all-NBA players fairly early. The other route is role player or bust, right? And right now on the trajectory, Jalen is on the role player or bust trajectory. If we keeping it a bean, 1,000, we keeping it 100, right? Now we have a lot of hope that because of circumstances of what the Rockets subjected him to, with Steven Silas, with the lack of veteran structure, with the different players going in and out, the lack of all the stuff, the context that we understand. We hope that that talent that was there is going to be able to burst out in this coming year, another year under Ime Udoka, some of the flashes we saw towards the end of the year. But in reality, the chances are, if we're doing this as a betting, I'm betting that he's not going to be a Luka Doncic as a number 2 pick, right? I'm putting money. If I had to put money, I would assume that Jalen turns into a good NBA player. That's a good player in the league. But the superstar arch is very specific. Go look at Ant. Go look at any of these, even the borderline guys that you want to call a star, the Trae Youngs, the Halliburton, like it pops off the chart by this time. That is why I think this year is going to be so definitive for what the Rockets need to do going forward that it's like when it happens, it's going to happen. Like when it happens, like after the season's over, you will know exactly what you need to do. Now, once again, I am okay with going into this season, standing pat, get some vets, try to make the playoffs. In fact, we have to make the playoffs, in my opinion, right? But for the long-term outlook for this team to compete in this Western Conference, it's going to be more than just being patient. They actually have to be active in recruiting players to the franchise that are ready to compete for championships. Or else we're just going to be one of those teams that were shut out during a period where a lot of great players emerged. I don't think that's the case. I personally think that Jalen's going to have a leap. I think a lot of people are hating on Jabari right now on Twitter. I think Jabari's going to have a great year. I personally think if Alperen Sengun is healthy, he's going to be a third-team All-NBA. I just think that because to me, the only thing missing from his game was wins. And I think slight efficiency improvement, he should be that, right? He should be that. Now, there is a lot of questions about all of our players about how they're going to perform in the playoffs. I think those questions apply to every single one of them, including Alp. And if I may do a video ranking what I think they're going to struggle and be successful in the playoffs. But just for right now, I think that you have enough intrigue, you have enough context with the stuff I've talked about. You have enough kind of things going on and going wrong to say that you need to see this one more year. But I get what the Rockets are doing. I understand it. I get it. And if they were to pull off a trade to go get a big player, to get a player that maybe cost us one of the prospects or two of the prospects that we have on our squad of the core 6, I understand it. Because when you switch over to trying to compete for championships, the roster is probably going to get flipped over a lot. And that's just how the NBA goes. So we're going to see. The draft is a few weeks away. I'm curious to see what they actually do. I feel like the buzz and the rumors is going to turn up as we get closer to that day. But you guys let me know in the chat. What are your thoughts on the Rockets' plans to compete in the Western Conference Finals for the next 2 years, 5 years, 10 years? Do you think we have enough? Do you think we have to make a trade? Are you team patience and just let the chips fall if we flame out with this core six, or we make it to a championship run? Or where do you stand on this? Let me know in the comments or in the chat. If you're new to the channel, make sure you hit the subscribe button. If you like this video, hit the like button. Keep rocking with the Chop Shop, and we're going to keep dropping that fire.
DJ Candlestick. It's the Chop Not Slap Show.